thee I am, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless thee I am, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Who forgiveth all thine iniquities, who healeth all thy diseases, who redeemeth thy life from destruction, and crowneth thee with loving kindness and tender mercies, who satisfy thy mouth with good things, so that thy youth is renewed like an eagle's. The I am executed righteousness and judgment for all that are oppressed. He made known his ways unto Moses, his acts unto the children of Israel. The I am is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, plenteous in mercy. He will not always chide, neither will he keep his anger forever. He hath not dealt with us after our sin, nor rewarded us according to our iniquities. For as the heaven is high above the earth, so great is his mercy toward them that fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. Like as the Father pitieth his children, so the I am pitieth them that fear him. For he knoweth our frame, he remembereth that we are dust. As for man, his days are as grass, as a flower of the field, so he flourisheth. For the wind passeth over it, and it is gone, and the place thereof shall know it no more. But the mercy of the I am is from everlasting to everlasting upon them that fear him, and his righteousness unto the children's children, to such as keep his covenant, and to those that remember his commandments to do them. The I am has prepared his throne in the heavens, and his kingdom ruleth over all. Blessed be the I am, ye his angels, that excel in strength, that do his commandments, hearkening unto the voice of the I am. Bless ye the I am, all ye his hosts, ye ministers of his that do his pleasure. Bless the I am, all his works in all places of his dominion. Bless the I am, O my soul. Psalms chapter 103. Deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have swayed the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from thee, my God. Establish thou me and my seed, that we go not astray henceforth and forever. Jubilees chapter 12 and verse 20. Yes. We thank God for you and you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And also we thank God for those of you that have been with us since the beginning. Those of you that have been with us here, there's about, in and out, or whatever. We thank God for those of you who have just subscribed. And we thank God for those of you that are about to subscribe, calling those things that are not as though they are. Yes, and those of you who are just observing or just watching. Yes. But remember to like, share, and subscribe. Okay. Now we're in the book of 2 Kings. The last chapter, chapter 25. Yes, 2 Kings, chapter 25, the last one. So we're going to do this chapter today, and we're going to come back to you on the Gregorian 7th day of the week. Yes. Or should I say first day of the week, which is what they call Sunday. Okay, we try to center our lives around the Sabbath. Whether you work or not, God understands, God knows that you have a family to raise, you have bills to pay and all that. God knows these things. Don't think God is so vehement about you doing things that you have no control of. You really don't, because of the sin of the ancestors. Yes, no, you don't. And those who are sinning even at this time, that are the children of Israel, the children of Judah. Yes. So you do those things that you know to do and can do, that is contained, and God sees your heart and how much you want to do these things. If you can get to a place where you don't have to work on the lunar Sabbath, not the Gregorian Sabbath. See, that's the Sabbath of man, Saturday. They call that, they've made that their Sabbath. And they say, oh, this is the Sabbath day. So you say man is God because he changed the times that God had prescribed unto Israel. Yes, he did. This is what you're saying. Now, some of you don't know better because this is what you were taught. But the fact is, those of you who do know, now if you don't know, now you know that the Sabbath is when the moon disappears behind a moon or the sun. and then it appears on the other side. This is the new moon. As soon as it appears, that's the new moon. And from that evening of the new moon to the next evening is the first day of the month. From the evening of the new moon to the evening of the next day is the new month. And 7 days from that is the Sabbath. Now these have been given names that are in the Hebrew language. Now that, I will leave that to you to study. Now, 2 Kings chapter 25. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came, he and all his hosts, as God had said. Because remember Hezekiah. You remember that, right? And you remember Hezekiah's son after him. They did the things right, but he was killed by, should I say, Nebuchadnezzar. He was killed. Not exactly by him, but by his people. Now, and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about. And the city was besieged, verse 2, unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. Now, Zedekiah was the king that we talked about that replaced the king of Jerusalem. Yes, he did. We're going to look at his name down as we go down. And that was the last line of the kings that of the Davidic seed, the seed of David. The king, Zedekiah was not a seed of David. He was not of the kings of David. No, he wasn't. And on the 9th day of the month, the 4th month of the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people of the land. And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between two walls, which is by the king's garden. Now the Chaldees was against the city round about, and the king went way toward the plain. Now you're going to see which way they went. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. And all his armies were scattered from him. Now, they overtook and pursued after King who was placed as king over who? Judah. He was a Babylonian. The last king of Judah was a Babylonian. And overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his armies were scattered from him. Now this is written on stone too. It's written there. You look at the Babylonian archives, you'll find it on stone. A lot of things are written on stone. You can't believe these social media platforms. These people are there to promote their pagan gods. Even Christianity and Islam, yes. Although their God may not be pagan, it's the pagan things that they do and the things that they have done to the children of the Most High. Now, all these armies were scattered from him. So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon, to Riblah. And they gave judgment upon him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes and put out the eyes of Zedekiah. Oh, wow. Isn't that something? His own family did this to him. And bound him with feathers of brass. Well, at least they put something that looked good on him. And carried him to Babylon. You know, this guy was in tremendous pain to put out a man's eyes. Some serious pain. You can't see, you don't know where you're going. You can't see the faces of those who are pulling you or nothing. All you want is death. It's hideous. You can talk to the blind and find out that they can't see your face, neither do they know. If they fall in love, they don't know if you're an ugly man or an ugly woman or a fat man, or they don't see your color. They don't see your stature. They don't see your status. All they know is that what they hear and what they feel and how you treat them. Who is blind is my servant, yet seeing many things seeth nothing, as the Most High describes. Now, and they slew them. And verse 8, and in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, and a servant of the king of Babylon unto Jerusalem. And he burnt the house of the Iam and the king's house and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. In other words, you stole the precious things of the Most High from the continent of Africa. Not only that, even those things of the Most High, the people of the Most High, which fled into Africa, what we call Africa now. Yes, they fled toward Egypt and they fled down into Africa. They had to go down into Africa because some of the tribes are there. And and they have mixed among the Hamites. So you cannot tell who they are, but the Hamites knew. Okay? And he burnt the house of the Iam and the king's house and all the houses of Jerusalem and every great man's house. Verse 10, and all the armies of the Chaldees that were with the captain of the guard break down the walls of Jerusalem round about. Now, if you look at Tel-Arad, all the walls of Jerusalem is broken down, even to this day. It matches the same outline as the archaeologists would tell you according to the measurement of Jerusalem. You'll see that. They were broken down. They didn't break them all the way down because they were built back up later on. Now, the rest of the people that were left in the city and the fugitive that fell away to the king of Babylon with the remnant of the multitude did the Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away. But the captain of the guard left the poor of the land to be vine dressers and husbandmen. It tells you. Now, sometimes it's good just to even pretend you're poor, even though you're rich. You don't have to go flaunting everything. No, you don't. If they don't know you're rich, then what they know is that if you're rich and you are rich by your own, should I say, education and the things that you knew, or you might have attained the knowledge through your family on how to do certain things to be rich. But yet some of you will just flaunt it. You want to look that way. You don't have to. It just means you have the things you need and you can get the things you want when you want them. But the captain, he left the poor of the land, and the pillars of brass that were in the house of the Iam, and the bases and the brazen sea that was in the house of the Iam, did the Chaldees break in pieces, and carried the brass of them to Babylon. And the pots and the shovels and snuffers and the spoons and all the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered took they away. And the fire pans and the bowls and such things that were of gold in gold and of silver in silver, the captain of the guard took away. The two pillars, one sea, and the bases which Solomon had made for the house of the Iam, the brass of all these vessels was without weight. They were very heavy, yes. And the height of one pillar was 18 cubits, and the chapiter upon it was brass. And the height of the chapiter 3 cubits, and the wreathwork and the pomegranates upon the chapiter round about of all brass like unto these had the second pillar with wreathen work. And there were beautiful things the king wanted. Because what? He showed the king, his servants, his whole house. Yes, he did. Which was a shame. Now, and the captain of the guard took Sariah, the chief priest, and Zephaniah, the second priest, and the three keepers of the door. You know, he even took the people of the Most High, the Levites. He took them. This was put in his heart by the minister, the ministering spirits. They're minister spirits to the Most High, and they're messenger spirits to the Most High. Now, this was put in his heart. And out of the city, he took an officer that was set over the men. And you can imagine the description that his servants gave him, the Nebuzaradan spoke spies that came and spied out the land. They spied out the land. And the way they described it just increased the lust and desire for these things before Nebuchadnezzar. So these things are amplified. It can be amplified by spirits. Otherwise, who cares? Yes. And the king of Babylon smote them and slew them at Riblah, at the land of Hamath. So Judah was carried away out of their land. So here's Judah carried away. Most of Judah was gone at this time. There were only left in Judah the poor. The same thing in Israel. The poor. Not all the tribes of Israel were gone. They weren't all gone. No. Some of them were still there. But they were mentioned not to rise. Not to have a leader. Not to have armies. No. There was a remnant there. There was a remnant. But what was the remnant? They were the poor, the farmers, those who really had nothing that. See, this is why men, you have to be careful of gold diggers. The reason why you got a lot of gold diggers is they want those who they think they can manipulate and put down, because a man, he is going to walk by his sight. And this is what is happening. A woman walks by sight, but in a different way than a man does. But for the people that remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left, even over them he made Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, ruler. Now this tells you his history. He was the son of Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan. Now when you go from Shaphan, you can go back to his father's father's father. And I'm sure Gedaliah know whose his grandfather's fathers were. This is how they kept the history. And in verse 23, when all the captains of the army and they and their men heard the king of Babylon had made Gedaliah governor, there came to Gedaliah to Mizpah, even Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, and Jonathan, and Kareah, and Sariah, and the son of Tanhumeth, the Neophathite, and Zaniah, the son of the Mechathite, and they and their men. Now you've heard about the Mechathites and the Netophanatites before. And Gedaliah sware to them that their men said unto them, fear not to be servants to the Chaldees, and dwell in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you. See, this is what happened. He said, don't fear to do these things. In other words, if you worship his idols, see, he wants to turn everything this is the way of the Satans. There's more than one Satan. Thank you. But then he would tell people not to fear. In other words, if you do what they do, you're going to be okay. You do what Master say, you're going to be all right. You worship his God, you follow his way, you turn the other cheek, you're going to be okay. Yeah. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies rose and came to Egypt, and they were afraid of the Chaldees. Now this is where a lot of them escaped into Africa. Or to, should I say, going West Africa, because they are already in Africa. That's part of, Aquabulan too. So they fled down into they fled eastward or west into Africa. And it's evident that they had went down south. And they were trickling at this time. You had Israelites trickling down into Africa. They were going from Mitzrayim and all these other places where they could flee away from the king of Babylon. Okay? Some of them stayed in Egypt. Yes, you can imagine, and you will imagine correctly if you did think about these things. For they were afraid. Verse 27. And it came to pass in the 7th and 13th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin, king of Judah. Now Jehoiachin his father was the one that allowed King, well, he allowed them, he was killed by the king of Babylon. And also you had Hezekiah, who was also that caused this thing to happen. But it all started with David. It all started with David. I mean, you have to look at it. David ruled, he had his eyes. His son was amplified in that he had all kind of women. Any women he desired, he wanted it, but his father wanted a woman that was not his. Although he repented and didn't do it again, still, it's evident that God did not like what David did, because the people have said, we want a king. And God told them what the king would do. And David would have never took that man's wife, who served the Most High with all his heart and loved his king with all his soul. Even though he was a Gentile of the Canaanitish people. God was very angry at that. Just like what you Christians would say, church folks going against each other and Muslims going against each other. It's the same thing. God was angry at that, very angry. And we're going to cross that road again into much detail in the book of the Chronicles, the two books, accounts of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. This is historical. These are historical now. This is what they experienced of God back then. You have to get that in your head. These are historical books. These are not the word of God. This is what God did to them now. God speaks to men in these historical accounts. Yes, he does, through his angels. They accounted to God, but you can't account it to God because God give his messengers instructions, and they relay it to those who he have instructed them to relay the message to. Because God will not come directly to a man. No, he will not. His holiness forbids it. He had to deal with Moses through a flame of fire. And that fire was an angel. That's what it was. No, you don't understand how that works, do you? Neither do I. But I know one thing. I understand why God would do things like that. See, this is what he means by understand and know me. God is holy. Do you know how holy God is? Do you know the power that God is? Do you know the power that God is? The Satans are no match to God. God uses them to try the children of men, to see who he can find himself strong in, who can just give themselves, who can love him above mother, brother. I know Jesus. Jesus is not God. God demands you love him, and is separated even from men. That you love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy strength. And then men, that you love your neighbor as yourself. And what he was talking about, your brother and those who would see God as you do. Those who are of your same people. This is what he was talking about. But what, did they sublimate that? Yes, they told you to love God. God hates sin. You are an enemy of God. When you sin, and especially if you sin into idolatry, you are truly an enemy of God. And when you go against God's people, or a person of God like David did, that was really hideous. A man that's supposed to have been, he was supposed to have loved his servant because he served his God. A man after God's own heart, desiring his own. He was swayed by devils. I could not reiterate that enough. And he caused all of Israel to be this way. Who knows if Israel would have kept God as their king and the Levitical priesthood as their judges and those who ministered unto their king, even God. Every king, president, they all have their ministers. In some form or another, they all have their ministers. All your governments have their ministers. Everything after the earth has their ministers doing those things which are after heaven. Do you understand this? You have to understand this. They send ministers, they delegate them to go to this place and that place and give tidings of their government unto men. But God tells these governments, where you are now is mine. I created it. They don't see that. They want to change. They have changed the things of God. The days, the hours, the minutes, the seconds, the way things, I mean, even marriage has changed to where you need a marriage license. Even the fact is that the man was supposed to give the woman a writing of divorcement. If she wanted a divorce, yes, she could get a divorce. She could just tell the man, I want a divorce, give me a writing of divorcement. Yes, she could do that. But it was up to the man whether he wanted to divorce her or not. And you talking about this Mary? Mary would have been, if the Mary story was true, she would have been put to death. Ain't no angel gonna come up there and tell no man to go and accept his wife being pregnant in an unknown source. This guy had to be a fool. See, this is how we've been deceived with the foolishness of the Immaculate Conception. Either way, she would have been put to death. Because they were still practicing some of the Adamic laws handed to Moses. These were laws handed to Adam. Adam knew these things. They were in Adam before they even came in his seed. Now, let us continue. And he spake kindly to him. This was the king of Jehoiachin, the last king of Judah. Says, now, and it came to pass in the 30th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, in the 20th month, and the 7th and 20th day of the month, that evil Merodach, he was evil. That's the way they translate it. King of Babylon in the year began to reign and did lift up the head of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, out of prison. They took him captive and they put him in Judah. They replaced him with Zedekiah of their own people. And he spake kindly to them and set his throne above the throne of kings. So there was a king of one who was on the throne of David, still living at this time. Now he had to have sons somewhere, or there was sons somewhere. Now he spake kindly to him and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babylon, and changed his prison garments as he did eat bread continually before him all the days of his life. So he captured the king. Yes, he did. He captured the king. And his allowance was a continual allowance given to him of the king daily, a daily rate for every day in all the days of his life. In other words, you're not king over Jerusalem no more. The one that was, we put somebody else in that place to go to rule Israel. North and south, taken away by Nebuchadnezzar. Both gone, deleted. The line of king cast down because God got frustrated. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28. And in an early example. Now, if you are of the children of Israel living in the U.S. and different places where slavery was taking place, you are the latter example of Deuteronomy chapter 28. Yes. So, in saying all of this, if we keep his commandments, even in this day and time, even in the situation that have taken place, we will have, yes, even peace.
Walk with me.